my shoes and out the door. 5, I'm alive. 6, 7, 8, feeling great.
Hello BYWG tribe, here's a quick peek at our supplement, product, and book of the month for December 2019. At the end of the podcast, I will spend a few minutes going into further detail, so we encourage you to listen to the end and check it out. The supplement of the month is not just one of our premium formulations, but the entire line. Yes, for the month of December, the entire BYWG nutrition line is 10% off using the code all lowercase letters BYWG GIFT. The product of the month for December is dry farm wines. Look out for holiday specials, and the link to receive a penny bottle of wine will be in the show notes and weekly emails. The book of the month for December is Keto for Life by Mark Sisson and Brad Kearns. Keep in mind all the links, discount codes, and special offers for the product, supplement, and book will be listed in the show notes and iTunes, posted on the social media, in our weekly newsletter, and on our website at www.beyondyourwildestgenes.com at the Listen Now tab. Thanks for listening. Hello and welcome back to Beyond Your Wildest Genes podcast. Listen, audience, I love coffee and I love tea, particularly green tea. Recently, I tried Pique Tea, loved it, and immediately reached out to the company to have a representative on from the company. And Jessica, not Jennifer, graciously said yes. So hello and welcome, Jessica. How are you today?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Good. So let me read your bio and we'll dive right in. Jessica is a certified fitness nutrition specialist, personal trainer, and has a law degree from Berkeley. Her personal health struggles started in her late teens with an undiagnosed autoimmune condition and progressively worsened through her 20s and early 30s as she battled with chronic joint and muscle pain, overweight, adrenal fatigue, gluten sensitivity, and a cornucopia of distressing health issues. Today, at the age of 39, Jessica never felt stronger, healthier, or more energetic. She spends her free time hiking, riding, or climbing up the mountain she only dreamed of during most of her life. There is no magic pill, but she's a huge advocate of intermittent fasting, which I am and we are as well, and can attest to the radical changes that it has provided for her clients. Jessica decided to start working with Pique after she discovered their teas and found that 1 month after drinking them healed her gut microbiome in a way that she never thought possible. So Jessica, while I read your bio, is there anything else you want to say to put a neat bow around your bio for our audience?
Sure. You did a good job. I have to confess, though, I turned 40 last week, so we have to update that. I'm no longer 39, but still feeling good. So
join the club.
It's great. I'm honestly a fan. As they say, it's better than the alternative, right? So.
Yeah.
No, you covered it all. You know, the only thing I would add is I definitely feel fortunate to have had a bit of a multifaceted professional journey. You know, I spent 10 years practicing litigation at an international firm. It was a job that I loved many aspects of for many years, but was very bewildered to find my health deteriorating pretty dramatically during that. It actually already started in law school. I had never learned how to balance wellness, whatever that means for you, you know, with a busy professional career. I took what some would call a pretty drastic step by leaving my law practice and becoming a wellness professional, which I've been doing for the last 8 to 9 years. But I feel like it puts me in a unique position to have empathy for especially those who find themselves with, you know, very busy lifestyles and, you know, who maybe have reached out to other wellness professionals and have just told them, oh, you know, you got to spend an hour every day in the gym. You got to spend hours meal prepping, cooking your meals. It's not realistic for a lot of folks. And I know that firsthand. So I've always focused on finding solutions that are both simple and sustainable, you know, that you can fit into a busy lifestyle, which has actually been amazing with finding Pique and being able to work with them because it's definitely a philosophy they believe in. And I think their product fits into very nicely as well.
I agree. So let's dive right into what Pique tea is. So people are familiar with loose leaf tea and then little tea balls and obviously tea bags, but tea crystals. Can you explain what that is and how they come to that point of actually having the tea crystal?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's a lot of confusion out there what that is. And just on the most basic level, if you're wondering, it's not like a crystal, like a rock you would imagine sitting on your desk. It actually looks like a very fine kind of sparkly powder that comes in tea sachets. But how do we get them? So we start with freshly harvested whole leaf teas. Incidentally, all of our teas come from only the first flush, which, if folks don't know, that's actually the first harvest. It's typically in the spring, depending on the tea leaf. Because the first flush, the first harvest, always naturally has the highest level of phytonutrients in those particular plants. So you're going to get a tea that's more packed with polyphenols and antioxidants if you start with the first flush, and not all teas do. So we take those tea leaves and we actually cold brew them. A lot of folks only are familiar with cold brew in the sense of coffee, right? But you can cold brew tea. And so the tea is brewed at low temperatures instead of scalding hot. And that is also going to preserve more of the phytonutrients in the plants, and it's going to keep them whole instead of scorching them or maybe starting to break them down. So we cold brew those tea leaves for up to 8 hours at low temperatures, and then we have a patented process that cold crystallizes them. It's our cold crystallization technique. And so that takes the already brewed tea. And how do we get that already brewed tea to you in the most convenient and effective and concentrated way? We turn it into those tea crystals that you then simply pour into water. Some of our teas will dissolve in cold or hot. Some of them only dissolve in hot water. But once you dissolve that into your water, you're essentially getting in whole form the antioxidants and the phytonutrients in the most effective way that we know of to get it to you.
Yeah, great answer. 'Cause I was curious what it meant by tea crystal. So thank you very much for that. So the next question is just a logical next step. What are some of the reasons for tea crystals, and why are they superior to bagged or loose tea?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I feel like the first thing to address is a little bit of a bias or a stereotype that I know I even had when it comes to a product that's perceived as instant, which is what these tea crystals are. We are the first instant cold brew tea. I don't know if, for those of us that are old enough, you might remember Tang when we were kids, which was
Sure.
the powdered orange juice, that we were told astronauts drank.
Mm-hmm.
And instant coffee, anything that's instant, we sort of have a bias that it's immediately of inferior quality. So I just wanted to blow that notion out of the water when it comes to these, because the entire reason we've turned them into the crystals is because it is the most effective way of preserving the nutrients. There has been third-party independent testing done on our teas, verified that our tea has up to 12 times the antioxidants of other leading brands out there. So we're not just cold brew crystallizing these for the customer's convenience. You're actually going to get a much more concentrated source of tea. And I'll let you guys in on a little secret. There's a lot of tea drinkers in this country, and most of us know that tea is supposed to have amazing health benefits. But the vast majority of tea drinkers don't experience those benefits. And the reason is because they don't drink enough. We always say the biggest secret of experiencing tea benefits is quantity. There was actually a study done by the Harvard School of Public Health in recent years where they evaluated the ideal level of polyphenols. Polyphenols are the antioxidants that are in tea. And they looked at how many milligrams of polyphenols you should drink every day in order to experience benefits. And the level they came up with translated to roughly 3 to 5 cups of tea per day. Now, of course, that depends on the type of tea you're drinking and what the actual polyphenol levels of those teas are. And we do know that drinking maybe 2 cups of Pique teas could give you as many polyphenols as up to 5 cups of other brands, depending on the other brand. So, for a lot of folks, it's easier to think about only drinking maybe 2 to 3 cups per day instead of 5 to 7 in order to get health benefits.
Yeah, that's what I've been experiencing for sure. 5 cups of tea is a lot, but 2 to 3 Pique sachets a day is really easy. Something maybe you could speak upon, because I've been seeing it fly around the social medias and all those kind of things, is how possibly unsavory bagged teas are because they're releasing, I believe, plastic particles into our water while we're drinking them.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. It's definitely been in the headlines lately. It's something we've tried to inform our customers of for a long time. But yeah, so specifically the most recent headlines are that certain tea bags, not all, but certain tea bags release up to, I think it was up to 1 billion or 10 billion particles of microplastics into your tea, which is definitely not something you're expecting. And that's not the only thing, by the way. A lot of tea bags out there have actually been made with materials that were sprayed with pesticides. So even if the tea leaves themselves, like let's say, you've found a brand that you like and the tea leaves were not sprayed with pesticides, it's possible that the paper material that the tea bags are made out of were sprayed with pesticides. There's some pretty nasty chemicals. You can do a basic search that are, I don't know if it's formaldehyde, but something similar, chemicals that have been linked to causing cancer that have been found in tea bags. And they also often are bleached. And when those tea bags are bleached and you put it in hot water, you might be getting this concoction that has bleach, pesticides, plastics, which is probably not something you want to be drinking on a daily basis. I know I don't.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And that's just another reason why I've gravitated towards Pique and I'm really enjoying it. Um, the variety of teas are incredible. I've probably tried, I don't know, I want to say I've tried 8 to 10 different flavors, maybe more, I'm not sure. There's gut health bundles, fasting teas, which I haven't tried the cinnamon yet, caffeinated ones, herbal teas like rooibos. Is there an end to the number of different tea possibilities?
I want to say the answer to that is no. I wish. We wish we could make them all. So for folks who don't know, the only true teas out there are actually green teas, black teas, oolong, and white teas. And then there's variations of those, right? Like we just released a pu'er tea, which is a fermented. There's 2 versions. There's fermented green, fermented black. All those teas come from the same plant, the Camellia sinensis plant. So those are really the only true teas. The herbal teas you mentioned, like a rooibos, we have a ginger tea, hibiscus teas, those are considered not to be true teas, but they're herbal. You can basically take just about any flower, plant, root you want and turn it into a tea, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's been very exciting for us to start to expand our line, and we've definitely got more in the hopper. We have a very long wish list of teas we'd like to be able to offer. But I mentioned earlier that one of the secrets we try to let people in on is that it's important you drink a sufficient quantity of tea. The variety also matters. We hear that tea has polyphenols. Now, the polyphenols in different types of tea are not the same. For example, most people know about catechins in green tea. It's, for example, EGCG. A lot of folks have maybe heard from their nutritionist or doctors that they should drink green tea for the catechins. Catechins are a type of polyphenol. And when green tea is fermented to become black tea, because that's what happens between green tea and black tea, those catechins actually transform to compounds called theaflavins and a few others. And those are entirely different polyphenols. The theaflavins are more associated with, they're a bit more prebiotic than the catechins in green tea. At least they work in a different way, and they can help with regularity so that you have better bowel movements, things like that. And then, of course, all your herbal teas, like you mentioned, have a whole nother range of polyphenols. I like to think of it as drinking the rainbow. We know we're supposed to eat the rainbow with different colored vegetables, and teas actually work the same way.
Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the number one source of polyphenols in the American diet is coffee, and tea may be second. I think I'm right on that, but
Coffee is definitely it's more popular. In the East, tea is the most popular drink, but here in the West, it's definitely coffee.
Right. Now, you talked already about the antioxidants and the polyphenols. You named a few specific ones. But what I like, and just another reason why I think Pique is so awesome is in the container, on the back of every container, I think it's listed, how much caffeine is in this tea, how much L-theanine is in this caffeine, which, L-theanine is what gives you that on top in combination with that caffeine, kind of gives you that sustained energy boost without the jitters. So we actually include that in one of our supplements. And then you also list, I believe it's the polyphenol content. So I think that's extremely helpful. It's there, black and white. You can kind of see which teas have more, have less. Anything else you want to say about the antioxidants, polyphenols, and the different types of teas and their potential health benefits?
Sure. Yeah. Well, you actually just raised an important point there with the L-theanine. It's awesome that you guys have it in a supplement as well, because people are finally starting to figure out how important L-theanine is. It affects the alpha brain waves of the brain, the alpha waves of the brain, I should say. And, you mentioned that it helps keep you from having the jitters. A lot of folks that maybe only drink decaf or limit themselves to a couple cups of coffee per day, they're worried about drinking tea with lunch or in the afternoon. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but most folks find that you're never going to get that intense jolt that you get from coffee, and then the jitters, and then the crash. And it's because the L-theanine turns the caffeine into more of like a time released. It acts as an antagonist, like it kind of chills out your nervous system. So you're not going to experience the caffeine jitters and crashes that you would from coffee. So yeah, and like you said, you can see on the back of the boxes, because some teas definitely have more L-theanine than others. Yeah, and then something else that's surprising to a lot of folks is that tea is in fact prebiotic. It helps support a healthy balance of microflora in the gut, which, as we know, is something that a lot of us are trying to focus on now that we've learned that gut health is basically the foundation of all health, right? Sometimes taking probiotics can be a little bit confusing, and whether or not you take any, adding tea can just be a good natural way to set the foundation in your gut for supporting healthy bacteria.
Yeah, and that has a lot of interest and meaning to me. Someone who's struggled with my digestion for quite some time. I'm more getting more interested in how teas can help that. So thank you for sharing that. I got to say, and I'm just getting back to the different varieties because it's just popping in my head. I really enjoy, like, sometimes I'll have back-to-back cups of Pique tea, and I'll try to, like, really focus on the differences. Like, I'll have, like, the Sacred Lily Oolong, which may be my favorite, and then I'll try the fermented green that's a tough word to say, pu'er tea, and just really appreciate the subtle differences and the nuances of each type of tea. It's kind of fun.
Yes, it definitely is. I know, I do the same. I mean, you're talking to somebody who I legit non-tea drinker until I discovered Pique. Like, I would try to drink maybe a cup or two per year, and I just couldn't do it. And now I've worked my way up to anywhere between 5 to 7 cups per day. It's kind of a problem, but it's just because I enjoy them so much. And by the way, a lot of times too, people who are maybe not as familiar with tea, they're a little worried about how it's going to taste. There's nothing wrong with adding, for example, a little unsweetened nut milk or your favorite plant milk to it. Dairy doesn't always go so well. We know a lot of folks don't do well on dairy, but the oolong you mentioned, which happens to be one of my favorites in the morning, if I like to mix it with a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of unsweetened flax milk, it's like a totally different drink, and it's delicious. That's like a latte.
It's one of my favorites for sure.
Cool.
You mentioned a little bit back that some can only be mixed into hot water. I don't think I've come into contact with any of those. Which ones can you only mix into hot water?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So it definitely specifies on the packaging of each of the boxes. For certain, all of our black teas, so your English breakfast, your Earl Grey, and some of the herbal like hibiscus, it's just the nature of the tea crystals. They're only going to fully dissolve in hot water.
Okay.
You could put your black tea in cold water and it would sort of work, but you're not going to release the same amount of antioxidants, and you might have some sediment. Now, it's still pretty simple. If you wanted to have those teas iced, for example, our hibiscus is really good cold, you would just put it in like an ounce of hot water. And by the way, you never want to use boiling water for these teas because you're going to ruin that cold brew effect and it might get more bitter. So you want water. There's recommended brewing temperatures on the boxes as well, or we have that information on the website. But if you wanted that tea iced, you would just mix the tea crystals in like an ounce of hot water first, and then you can pour it over ice and cold water, and you instantly have iced tea.
Okay, cool. I obviously wasn't paying attention to that because I've been using the English black, all the black teas as as cold brews.
You see, and it works, right?
Yeah,
But
it
there might
does.
be some sediment, and you won't be getting the full release of polyphenol. So yeah, try it with a little bit of hot water first, and
All right.
it might work better for you. It might taste better too.
That's funny. Uh, is there anything else you'd like to say or share about Pique tea crystals?
I guess the only thing we haven't covered so far that we like to make folks aware of is we uniquely triple toxin screen our
Yeah.
teas. We talked about the potential pesticides that could be found in teas. We always, like, not only do we source from regions that are very often some of the most protected sources of biodiversity. I'll give you an example. Our matcha comes from a region in Japan that is the furthest you can get from, the radioactive sites over there. We screen for radioactive isotopes in our matcha. All of our teas are screened for the pesticides, for heavy metals, because that's something that can turn up in a lot of teas, and also toxic mold, which can be very common in tea leaves. So, no matter what type of tea you choose to drink, we really recommend that folks do their research, check out where the tea that you're drinking is coming from and whether the companies are screening for these things, because especially if you're drinking multiple cups per day every single day, those toxins can add up over the long term.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. How about fluoride too? Is that something that you guys pay attention to?
Yes, so we screen for the fluoride in our matcha, and it's something that we're currently working into our other green teas.
Yeah, because I know that historically, and I think it's the nature of the tree or the plant itself that
Uh-huh.
it will absorb fluoride. So
It does, yeah.
I'm glad you're yeah, I should have mentioned that already. Like, yeah, toxic mold is really important. Heavy metals are really important. That's the last thing you want to consume. So just another reason to choose Peak as your tea beverage of choice. Just want to say, all the links and everything. If you guys are listening and you're curious on how to get Peak, all the links will be in the show notes and our email. We've already featured a couple of the specials they've had prior to this interview release. So, audience, I highly suggest you try it. I've tried it. A lot of people that I trust um, and have interviewed in the past use it as well. So it's just a great product. And and on this podcast, you guys know that we'll only recommend something that we really love, appreciate, and find really beneficial. So, final question, Jessica, what's your rhythm? Because I ask the end of every podcast this question. What is your rhythm from waking to sleeping?
Ooh, I like this. I like thinking of it as a rhythm. That's good. So you just want to know what my day looks like, essentially, right?
That's it. That's another way to say it. Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, I definitely try to start my day pretty early. I am the type of person that gets all my best work done earlier in the day. Anything analytical or creative, I'm pretty much useless when we get into the afternoon hours. So that varies, but yeah, as soon as I get up, I take the dog out. We run around for a little while. It's kind of a good way to get the day started. Come back inside. I do make my first cup of tea at this point. Lately, it's been the poor fermented black tea. Sometimes it's oolong, but I'm kind of attached to the fermented teas right now. I do I guess you could say I practice intermittent fasting. I personally just think of it as normal human behavior. I like to give my digestive system a break for 14 to 16 hours every night, just kind
Yep.
of naturally. So I won't have breakfast until about between 10 or 11. So after I have my first cup of tea in the morning, I will spend about 45 minutes. I consider it my wellness window, depending on the day and how I'm feeling. I might do some strength training. I might hop on my spin bike and do some intervals. I might do yoga. I might do mobility exercises. Just, tune into what the body feels like it needs for that day. And then I jump right into my work because, like I said, I function best in the morning. I'll break for breakfast between 10 and 11. I'll have usually my third cup of tea by that point. I have my fourth with lunch, my fifth after lunch. I try to, wrap up my work as much as I can by 5 o'clock usually so that I can start making dinner for the family. Spend the evening hopefully going on a long walk with the dog, or we'll all go out and play on the trampoline or something. And typically play a couple board games in the evening, do some reading, have some herbal tea, and I do try to be in bed as close to 10 as possible. I love my sleep. I'm a great sleeper, so the more I get, the better.
Yeah, yes, I totally agree. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention that the education that Pique Tea Crystals offers is great as well, and I pretty sure every Friday. What is something on Friday? What do you release every Friday, Jessica? That you curate?
Yeah. Thanks for mentioning it. So it's called the Friday Five. It's a newsletter that comes out every Friday afternoon, Friday evening. I write all of it myself. We feature a new wellness blog every week. We feature a new recipe that always includes our tea as an ingredient. And it's not just a drink recipe. Sometimes it's, for example, a curry or a broth. So it's food that you can make with our tea as well. And then we'll feature a wellness study that's been in the news. We'll have a little product review in there and then a fun tea fact. So yeah, if you guys go to Peak Tea and sign up for the mailing list, you'll get that newsletter every Friday.
Excellent, excellent. Any last words?
Just really appreciate that you discovered Peak Tea and that you're enjoying it and willing to share it with the world, because that's honestly all that we're trying to do. We're trying to help everybody unlock the benefits, as we think it ultimately would help create a better world if people feel better, and what more can we ask for? So thank you.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, the links to check out Pique Tea Crystals will be in our show notes and our emails, our website, the whole thing. Will probably be released sometime in December. My name is Dr. Noah DeCoyer, your co-host, and you are listening to the Beyond Your Wildest Genes podcast. If you like what you've heard today, please share this with your friends and family and encourage them to subscribe on iTunes. And as my oldest son Hayden says, be awesome and never unawesome. It's Dr. Noah, and I'm back. I suspect you loved listening to this week's podcast release. So the December book of the month is Keto for Life. Reset your biological clock in 21 days and optimize your diet for longevity. I interviewed the co-author, Brad Kearns, and it was great. The podcast interview discussing this book will be released in December for your listening pleasure. The link to purchase the book will be in the show notes and weekly emails. Collectively, we talked about having a Black Friday or Cyber Monday special, and we decided to step it up a notch. For the month of December, the entire BYWG nutrition line will be 10% off using the code all lowercase BYWG GIFT. Check out the line on our website at www.beyondyourwildestgenes.com, or check out the BYWG podcast, where during the month of December we will release a brand new podcast discussing the supplements. In our archives, we also highlight one of the supplements in a very deep way each and every month. Our product of the month is a worthy repeat, a company that I've been a member of for over 3 years, and that's Dry Farm Wines. During the holidays, a healthier bottle of wine is always worth searching for, and Dry Farm Wine fits the bill. We have a special offer for a penny bottle of wine using the code found in the show notes, weekly emails, and social media. It's real easy, folks. www.dryfarmwines.com/BYWG. Dry Farm Wines features low alcohol, extremely low sugar, carb-free, very low sulfates, and mycotoxin-free. Pay attention for holiday special wine deals offered throughout the month, and don't worry, we'll keep you in the loop. Thank you for your time, and be awesome and never unawesome.